I've been dealing with the influence of the adversary. And of course, you and I recognize during the millennial kingdom, Satan will be bound and placed in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. And for the first time in the history of the human family, I mean, even in Eden, Satan was there lurking in the garden. For the first time since the Garden of Eden, man will not be under the influence of the adversary of the devil. That will make the promise of the millennium and the law of the kingdom spelled out of the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, that will make that a reality. The fact that the adversary of the devil is no longer able to influence the human family. We saw the influence of the adversary in the Garden of Eden. We saw the influence of Satan, the adversary, at Christ's first coming, when the Bible records in Luke chapter number 22, and Satan entered in to Judas Iscariot. Today I want us to see the influence of Satan in the present church age. In Ephesians 6, verse number 12 and 13, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand." I have dealt with this text in my meetings as I had the opportunity to preach in 2020, and I went from holding 40 revival meetings a year to last year I think I held 9, and this year will be about the same, about 9 or 10 meetings. I have not had this few meetings since the early days of my ministry. I'm talking about back in the late 1980s. I have had this few meetings. I received a text today as I'm recording this from a pastor over in North Carolina, where I was supposed to hold a revival. By the time you hear this program, that revival would have been held several months ago. And he said, I want you to come in and preach on Sunday, but we're not going to try to have the meeting. He said that I just can't get my people to come out. And the adversary of the devil, I think, has thrown the human family, and his agents in Washington have thrown the human family a curveball over this matter of COVID. Now, I'm not denying the fact that COVID is a virus. It most certainly is. I had it back in November of last year. I was sick for 7 days and had a fever from between 102 to 105 and a half. 105.5 was the highest temperature I had. But we have known about COVID, the COVID virus, call it the COVID flu. It is a flu-type virus. COVID itself is a cold. COVID is a cold. And we have known about this for over 60 years. Now, a lot of people didn't know about COVID. They'd never heard it. It was not a part of their vocabulary. Of course, we know about pneumonia, and we know about all the terms, walking pneumonia, double pneumonia, and things of that nature, and we are very familiar with the flu. And we offer flu shots, and some people take flu shots. I don't. I've never had a flu shot. If you have, that's your business. I've never felt compelled to have a flu shot. But the flu is a part of our vocabulary. We've heard it all of our life. None of us had ever heard about COVID, and we would not allow the government and mayors of cities and governors of states to shut us down over the flu. But because COVID, a lot of people thought that COVID was some new mystery virus. Like I said, virologists and doctors have been aware of the COVID virus for more than 60 years. They've been aware of the COVID virus. But because a lot of people were ignorant of that word, they think it's some newfangled mystery disease, and they'll wear a mask over their face. I'm concerned about the psychological effect this is going to have on small children, very small children, young people. We have lost over a year of education. 16-year-olds are a year behind now. They're a year behind the rest of the world. You would not have allowed this to happen over the flu. If the governor said we've got a state of emergency because we're in flu season and you might get the flu, and so I want all the businesses shut down, restaurants shut down, no school, why you wouldn't stand for that till the water started boiling on the stove. But because of the unfamiliarity with COVID, we've allowed that to happen when the COVID is a form of flu. We didn't react this way to SARS, and the SARS virus, again, is a flu-type virus, a respiratory pneumatic-type virus. We didn't respond this way to bird flu or swine flu epidemics. We didn't shut a thing down during the swine flu or the bird flu epidemic. What about the Ebola epidemic that broke out about 6 or 7 years ago? If you get Ebola, brother, you're in trouble. You've got a real good possibility that you're going to die. And we didn't shut anything down over Ebola. We did restrict flights in from African countries where the Ebola disease was at its worst, but we didn't shut a thing down in the United States. And yet we've responded to this matter of the COVID. Now, this is my opinion. I don't think you can prove me wrong. You don't have to agree with me. But it's my opinion that what we have witnessed in 2020 and in 2021 is a spiritual warfare. Paul said in Ephesians 6:12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Our warfare is not with guns and tanks and planes, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Now, if I have to pick back up here on Monday coming, I will. But I want to point out these 4 areas in the time I have remaining on the program. We wrestle against, number 1, principalities. Principalities are principal men. They are elected officials. I ran for our county commission in Greenville County last year, and I was not successful. I didn't get elected. There are a lot of good things that God has done as a result of my running for office, and I certainly plan to run for public office again. I'm not finished running for public office. Had I been elected, I would have become a principality, a principal man, an elected official. The mayor of your city is a principality. The city council is a body of principalities. The county commission, board of supervisors, county council, those are principalities. The governor of your state is a principality. Now, you've never read anything more accurate in the Bible than what I just read to you a moment ago. For we wrestle against principalities. Who is it that has shut down churches in the state of Nevada but let the casinos stay open? That has shut down churches and fine churches in California? That has wreaked havoc in the local churches that I have had the opportunity of preaching in Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee. There are churches that will never recover, that I have held meetings in for ongoing years, that will never recover from what happened to them in 2020. And that was done by principalities. Second, by powers. And there are powers in this world that are not the power of God. There are men that are demon-possessed and under the control of the devil. Third, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Now, I know who is occupying the Oval Office, but I'm not entirely sure who is handing the paperwork for him to read and sign. But someone in the background is running this administration. We never use the term deep state until the Trump administration. He brought that into our vocabulary, as well as the phrase drain the swamp. I'm in favor of both. The rulers of the darkness of this world, the men in the shadows that you can't find, you didn't vote for them, you can't vote them out. And yet they are the ones controlling the situation against spiritual wickedness in high places. And if you and I knew what was going on in Washington, the Satan worship, the child trafficking, the rape rings, the child sex rings, if we were aware of the spiritual wickedness going on right now, you would be shocked. You would be in a total state of shock. My time has gotten away from me. The Lord willing, we'll pick back up with this on the program at a later date.
Write the Bright Spot Hour at Post Office Box 4, Greenville, South Carolina 29600.